Hello! It's interesting, and I know many of you experience this. When we go to the gym to train, there's always this one bodybuilder who looks at you like the amount of iron you're lifting is equivalent to the amount he had in his breakfast that morning. He looks at you like he's manlier than you, that somehow his big orexia, fixation with being huge, thus larger muscles, makes him better than you.
So, in my opinion, if I got 22-inch arms, what the f does it matter how I got them? The point is, I got them and you don't. You know what I'm saying? So you lose. All that matters is that guy's bigger. Does it really matter how the f he got bigger? When it really boils down to, all that matters is he's bigger, he's stronger, and he looks better.
Giving this sense that he could dominate you at any time. As tribal creatures, that instinctive sense to dominate probably would have in sense been expressed through fighting, and so in a way, they are probably communicating that they are the alpha, because through their bigger muscles, they feel they are better fighters than you. But is that true? Is that dominant alpha feeling they express justified? Well, the question you'd have to ask first is, can a bodybuilder fight, period? Before we jump into striking, let's first see how they fare against jiu-jitsu, and then ask why it turned out the way it did.
Who wants some? What? You come to my house!
Notice how the bodybuilder shoots in for a takedown and tries to muscle his way through his opponent. But it just does not work. The martial artist uses the integrity of his bones to leverage his opponent into a more favorable position. First to note why the bodybuilder loses this exchange. It's easy. Bones are always stronger than muscle, and so if you can use technique that relies on your bones instead, as the jiu-jitsu practitioner did, you'll likely win the exchange. The moment he lands on his back, he doesn't even realize what just happened, and tries to muscle his way back up. But easily, through the guillotine choke, the martial artist leverages his opponent back to the mat. The first reason why high muscular strength will always lose to a trained and educated martial artist is simply because bones are stronger than muscle. Thus, muscle alone just does not cut it against technique. Here we can highlight the fact that muscles eventually fatigue, and when the muscle is tired from the persistent force applied through leverage, it might as well not exist, and then the arm just goes snap. With all of that established, it's easy to see why the black belt here easily destroyed a bodybuilder who didn't really have any techniques to properly hurt his opponent. Thus, technique and leverage will typically outclass sheer muscular strength on its own, whilst the person who never trained their muscles to hurt will have no real tools to fight back. It's clear, when it comes to grappling, the person who did not train to grapple will lose in grappling the same way the person who did not train to lift heavy weights will lose in lifting heavy weights. There's some parallels you can draw, but for the most part, they are different disciplines, and when a meathead implies it's somehow the same through their ego, these instances have proved it's delusional. But what about striking? This bodybuilder KV proclaims to be a Golden Gloves champ and a Muay Thai champ at age 15, and now it appears he's retained all of this mass. It's fair to say this man does have power. You know, if he does hit you, it'll probably hurt, but his strikes for the most part look forced. They are very telegraphed, and near the end he looks fatigued. Overall, this does not look very practical, and if we were to put this man against a UFC fighter, you know, he's 230 pounds, which at 5'8" puts him in the heavyweight class. I don't see his stiffness and telegraphed nature being of any effect versus any of them. The Black Beast, for example. Now, don't get me wrong, the Black Beast is a remarkable warrior, but he probably won't break a sweat fighting this guy. For once. Mariusz Pudzianowski, who's probably the closest example we can use, the world's strongest man, not a bodybuilder, did use technique to one-punch Rolls Gracie, pulling down his guard and then dropping a haymaker. But that was after he got destroyed by the fat Tim Sylvia. And honestly, when KV throws his strikes, I don't see that smooth delivery Mariusz had. All of his strikes look forced and unnatural, with potential to hurt his opponents. But honestly, just look at that chubby dad bod Kelvin Gastelum's strikes in comparison. He doesn't have big arms, just technique and fluidity, and that gives him a world of difference, power-wise, despite Kelvin definitely having less overall mass. That's what proper technique and proper training does. Overall, most UFC fighters do use weights when it comes to their training, and it does make sense so as long as you know how to train. You always have to consider how you're training your mind in correlation with the muscle. If you can somehow turn your bodybuilding regimen into a functional training regimen, a motion that serves a purpose, sure, you might not get as big, but you'll look muscular and your body won't be useless. That's right, a body built through bodybuilding is traditionally useless. They will get outlifted by smaller powerlifters, mass times acceleration being the formula for destruction. Thus, the hypertrophy response will slow down their overall speed, thus deliver less force. Meaning, bodybuilders will have weaker strikes, weaker punches, kicks. They will be more telegraphed, more stiff, thus less fluidity in kinetic chain. Basically, this illusion of aesthetics, which isn't necessarily even true. The only people who think this is attractive is other bodybuilders. This has no real practical value. It just feeds into an unhealthy market built on men's insecurities. And this is going to piss a lot of you off. It's the truth regardless of if you wish to accept it. It's the same reason why a lot of women, despite most men not finding it attractive, starve themselves to the point of anorexia and still think they're fat. It's why women put on tons of makeup loaded with chemicals and carcinogens, but in a different manner. I'm all for looking jacked naturally, feeling healthy, feeling good in your bodies. I believe we should all train one way or another. Whether it be dance, working out, martial arts, I think it's important to move your bodies and push your bodies. Because at the end of the day, your vessel is how you experience life, and fine-tuning it is fine-tuning your capacity to experience this world. But when you take whey, which has been proven to be useless and damaging for the average individual, and even if you don't want to be the average individual, you take steroids, essentially reducing your lifespan to look tough and manly through this image of being more strong. In reality, that just is not the truth. You're only a good fighter if you train to be a good fighter, and you're killing yourself due to an insecurity. Regardless of what anyone thinks, do what makes you happy. And if you love bodybuilding, I support you. But don't look at other guys like you're alpha over them because you're bigger than them, that you're better than them. Your accomplishments should be for yourself. And if you think it means anything else, like your fighting capacity, your manliness, or whatever, if you try to tell the world you're special and better by simply having an inflated image that's not grounded in reality, anything substantial, but instead based on insecurity, that's kind of delusional. This leads to another question though. Can you have big muscles and fight? George St. Pierre wasn't a man looking specifically to get big, I don't think. I don't think he was getting big for the sake of getting big, but his muscles were pretty damn big, and they were conditioned to functionally serve a purpose. And so if you take the functional aspect into your training, if you take that into consideration, training your explosiveness, then yeah, sure, you can deliver stronger punches and a stronger wrestling shoot whilst also having larger muscles. So yeah, large muscles can be good if you know how to build them. But they won't be as big as a bodybuilder's, but you'll be relatively big and powerful. Here's the bottom line to finish this off. Do what you love, guys. This segment only exists to mitigate some of those meatheads when it comes to them believing they're the alpha, that they're manlier and better than everyone else just because they took a needle in their ass and grew a bigger bicep than their brains. If you're a bodybuilder, but you're non-judgmental, you're doing your own thing, you're doing it for yourself, I've got nothing but love for you, man. And I wish you the best on your journey. I wish you all who choose to follow your heart, regardless of what anyone else says, the best. This applies to you whether you're a bodybuilder or not. Just don't push your beliefs on people who don't give a shit. That's it. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you did. It's good karma. And until next time, peace.